We are now in the last year that logic games will ever be on the LSAT, which means it's time to make a decision. Do you want to take the LSAT with the logic games section or without the logic games section? Currently, the LSAT has 3 scored sections, 1 logic games, 1 logical reasoning, and 1 reading comprehension. However, after the June 2024 LSAT, the LSAT will change. It will then have 2 scored logical reasoning sections and 1 scored reading comprehension section. No more logic games at all. So you have to decide, do you take the LSAT with the games or without the games and then getting double logical reasoning instead? My recommendation, if at all possible, is that you take the LSAT with the logic games section June 2024 or earlier and be done with it. The reason being, logic games is the most learnable and the most perfectible section of the test. It may seem foreign at first, it may seem difficult at first, but it truly is the most learnable section because it's the most clear-cut and unambiguous. It doesn't have the same perceived ambiguities of language that you'll see on logical reasoning or reading comprehension, for example. The patterns are much more obvious and much more apparent. And at the point of recording, at this time, you have several months between now and the June LSAT to achieve your fullest potential on the exam and be done with it with the logic games section. You could take the LSAT in February, retake it in April with June as a backup, and then be done with it. Or you take it in April with June as a backup and be done with it. Or maybe you've already been studying for a while and January or February could be your last attempt ever to be done with the LSAT for good. There's no reason to procrastinate and put other things as your priority, only to have to take the LSAT later in June or August, aiming for June as your first, August as your second, which in my view makes no sense at all, because you'd be studying logic games on the June LSAT, which then wouldn't help you at all for the August LSAT. So it's time to make a firm, clear decision and say, I'm taking the LSAT with games, in which case June will be my last attempt ever, or I'm going to take it without games, at which point I will then aim for August without the games as my first LSAT attempt. But you don't want to straddle the line taking the LSAT with games one time, without games another time. What that would mean is that you'd be putting in all this work learning logic games, which would not help you at all if you took the LSAT in August or later. Much better to spend that time focused on logical reasoning, since starting with the August LSAT, you're going to have double logical reasoning, no games, and of course a reading comp as well. The thing you want to consider about taking an LSAT with no games is that starting with the August LSAT, you're going to have 2 scored logical reasoning sections and 1 scored reading comprehension section. But of course, you're also always going to have that unscored experimental section, which of course will be logical reasoning or reading comp, whether you're taking the LSAT before or after the change. What this means is that starting with the August LSAT, you could potentially have 3 logical reasoning sections back to back, 2 of them being scored, 1 of them being unscored. Of course, you're not going to know which is which. And of course, you're not having any more logic games experimental sections no matter what, whether you're taking the LSAT now or later, because LSAT doesn't need to test out new games, since of course there's no more games on the LSAT starting in August. Going forward, they're already just using old logic games that they've already previously administered and tested out as scored portions of the LSAT. And then of course, after June, no more games, period. So you don't want to do 3 logical reasonings back to back. If that's the case, take the LSAT before the change, no later than June of 2024. Of course, you may be trying to think about, do I take the LSAT with the games, without the games? Of course, the choice is yours, depending on when you want to take the LSAT and when you want to apply to law school. But the thing is that even if logic games seem tough to you now, remember, they are the most learnable and the most perfectible section. You may want to devote at least a couple of weeks trying to learn games, working on ordering games, grouping games, combinations of both, just to see how it goes for you. Maybe you'll be able to improve significantly, as so many others have, myself included. If they seem hard at first, don't worry, stick with it. Think of them as crossword puzzles or Sudoku, where you've got this cascading domino effect of inferences that will get more and more complex over time, which of course will help you more and more to help you solve the questions over the course of the game. Remember, for logic games, 2 big ways to get more efficient at them. You want to make more inferences up front, and then you want to maximize your reuse of previous hypothetical scenarios. Too many students fail to use these strategies. Maybe they just don't realize they can, but of course, those can help you make significant improvements to both your speed as well as your accuracy. And if you're looking for help on logic games or any other section of the exam, if you're aiming to achieve a 170 plus, I'd love to hear from you. Check out the links below this video to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd love to help you out with a free, no obligation strategy session. We offer live online classes via Zoom, on-demand video courses, small group coaching, and one-on-one coaching. We'd love to help you get ready for the LSAT, whether you're taking it in January, February, April, June, or beyond. With the games, without the games, we'll help you out either way. And if you haven't already, get a copy of my book, Mastering the LSAT, available at lsatmasterybook.com. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.